ready to sing?
Yes.
You remember this, right?
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we going?
Pick a part, any part.
You're always from just the second part.
Mystery come from.
Mystery,
What are we?
life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery,
Come from.
mystery,
What are we?
life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery,
What are we?
life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery,
Come from.
mystery,
What are we?
life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going?
Good job. In the beginning, 100 years ago, Norbert Chapek had a beautiful idea. This idea turned into a denomination-wide annual ritual, the Flower Communion. Thank you for joining us on this blossoming Sunday morning as we continue our journey down the path of creativity together. Today is our Flower Communion. It is the 100th anniversary of this UU tradition, and it offers us a way to reflect upon how our unique ideas become a part of the world, offering ways for people to change their perspectives and become a part of the creating spirit that flows through life. My name is Judy Pell, and I use the pronouns she and her. We begin this annual ritual with a statement of grace written by Reverend Sarah Scher. And then I read this, right? Okay. Some of you may be visiting for the first time today or did not know about today's Flower Communion. Though some have come without a flower, some have brought extra flowers. Everyone is welcome and everyone can partake of this special ritual. Through some miracle similar to the story of the loaves and fishes, there are always flowers left over at the end of the Flower Communion. This is the grace of our church community. All will be invited to come forward and all will be served. Let us begin by creating a sacred space with the lighting of our chalice. Do we have a chalice lighting? Petra, would you like the chalice, please?
I would like the chalice.
Thank you. Okay. If I Were a Flower by Reverend Carol Martignaco. If I were a flower, I'd be a lily, a stargazer, with a face wide open, astonishing white, petals sprinkled with specks of deep fuchsia. A bit showy, loving the attention of passers-by. I'd proudly claim my place in the sun, all day waving on my tall, sturdy stalk, showing my colors. By night, even in sleep, I'd gladly open up my whole being to the distant light streaming toward me from the innumerable stars for which I am named. What about you? Petra, you already lit the thank you. Thank you, Petra, for lighting the chalice. Everyone, please rise in body or spirit to sing and sign.
Good morning. I'm Heather Norby, the Spiritual Life Director for this congregation, and I use the pronouns she and her. I have a message for all ages, and I know our children unfortunately could not be with us today, but we all know Petra is very young at heart, as are many of you, and so Petra is going to help me out with the children's part. So as Judy mentioned, 100 years ago, a Unitarian minister in Czechoslovakia had an idea, and he knew just what to do with it. He shared it with others. So Petra, can you help us in that sharing now and bring the flowers forward to our chalice table? Tom will assist, as we have many flowers. And Jane too. Jane and Princess Leia are assisting as well.
You said the kids weren't here. Leia was hurt.
Oh no.
She's a kid.
That's right.
She ran up to him.
Aw. Aw, Princess Leia, we love you. You're one of the kids too. So I want to tell you a story. It's called Norbert's Lasting Idea, and it was written by Laurel Whitehouse. Norbert Chapek was born 150 years ago in June of 1870. He grew up in troubled times in Europe. During World War I, his safety was threatened because he spoke out against those who tried to restrict freedom of worship. So Norbert and his wife came to America, where Norbert discovered Unitarianism and became a Unitarian minister. Once the war ended, Reverend Norbert wanted to return to share his love of Unitarianism with the people of his country, which was now the newly created country of Czechoslovakia. He returned to the city of Prague in 1921 and started a brand new church, which grew steadily as more and more people came to listen to Reverend Norbert's sermons. The war had left many miseries and a hard life for the people of Prague. Families had been broken up. Businesses had been ruined. And there, many of his congregants didn't have enough money to meet their needs. Unitarianism was new to Czechoslovakia, and the worship service was quite unlike ours today. There were no stories, not even any music, and the sermons were very, very long. The church building was plain and cold in the bitter winters. Still, people came because they were eager for worship, spirituality, connection, and hope as they tried to rebuild their lives. Reverend Norbert knew that the people who came to hear his sermons were learning about Unitarianism and building a new faith together, but he also knew that the daily struggle continued to be 5 years after the war. He knew the weariness of the troubles and sadness they carried, and how his people yearned for a sense of connection and possibility. He went for a walk along the river Vltava, which winds through Prague, and as he slowly crossed one of the many bridges over the river, he began to think about how to lift the spirits of his congregation. He wanted to help them have hope. Reverend Norbert saw a flower growing in the bare and scuffed earth near the edge of the river. The beauty and bravery of this little bloom lifted his spirits. He wanted to share that uplifted feeling with his congregation, but how? His church had no altar flowers or gardens around it. Reverend Norbert thought and thought as he walked, but he just didn't have any ideas about how to share the feeling that the flower had given him. He came to a small child from his congregation who smiled at him and held out a flower for him to take. Reverend Norbert smiled back with a happy heart and realized in that moment how to spread this warm feeling with his church members. It was spring and there were flowers growing everywhere in Prague, in the parks, along the river, even in the rubble still left from the war. Reverend Norbert spread the word to his congregation to bring a flower to the worship service that next Sunday. Everyone did show up with a flower. There were stems of white daisy-like chamomile, yellow many-petaled leopard's bane, the bright pink rockets of cyclamen, plump yellow clusters of primroses, fuzzy pink spires of hens and chicks, deep blue gentians, pinky purple pesque flower, and of course many roses, which are the national flower of Czechoslovakia. So on June 4th, 1923, the day after Norbert's 53rd birthday, that plain church was bursting with colorful clusters of flowers, each uniquely beautiful, short, tall, spiky, round, scented, and vibrant. And the uniquely beautiful faces of the congregants were also bursting with smiles of warmth and hope as they felt the powerful forces of growth and possibility in nature and in each other. Reverend Norbert Čepak called that feeling the hidden cry for harmony with the infinite that each person feels inside. At the end of the service that day, when they chose a flower to take home, those seeds of hope and harmony and fellowship went with them and began to grow in their hearts and spirits. Oh, the author of this story Laurel Whitehouse writes, "We can't be sure if that is exactly how the first flower celebration Sunday happened 100 years ago in Prague. It's a pretty close estimate, but wouldn't we like it to be?" So look at the flowers that we've brought here today. How do they make you feel? Do they make you feel any special way? Think about how they've come here because of Norbert's idea 100 years ago. And we will now share our abundance. Judy, would you please introduce them? That's just our birds. They're just having a good time over there. Thank you.
We have been able to sustain this community since 1955 because of the contributions of our ancestors and because of your contributions. Everyone who enters these doors has a unique contribution to make. Everyone's experiences in the world are different, and the ideas that we share have arisen from them, offering us unique ways to build this loving community. The ushers will now pass the plates so that you can give as much as you think you need to in order for our golden creative ideas to grow and change this community together. Please know that you can also give on our PayPal link or on the Zelle app.
Our mission here at UUCL is love plus connection equals transformation. So I call you now into this connection part by lifting up some of the opportunities for being together that are happening around here real soon. This Wednesday, our Wednesday night small group meets at 6:30 in the sanctuary. We will be restarting small groups in the fall. So think about how you might want to get connected and involved, and let me know so that we can start planning. I know it's only May. We're planning for the fall. I would like to say thank you to Adam Hargrove and to Ken Schmidt and Dorothy Lemmy for cutting up the big branch that fell in our parking lot this week. So good. Thanks for getting that out of the way. We appreciate that. Quickly, yes, they were very quick. Next week, Dyken Hicks from the Hokori Zen Temple that meets here in our social hall on Saturdays and sometimes Tuesday nights. Dyken Hicks will be leading our worship service next week, so please be sure to join us. He always has a wonderful message to give to us. After the service, I have some petitions that petitions to get an abortion bill back on the ballot so that we have access to abortion. As you know, our first principle honors the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and bodily autonomy is a part of that. It is a sacred right, and so I do have petitions that I will be holding at the door as you leave, so please be sure to take one and to sign it and give it back to me so that I can get it to the right people. Thank you. This Saturday, we have a Pride and Faith choir rehearsal. Pride and Faith is an interfaith service done by churches in Polk County, mostly Lakeland, and we do that the week of the Polk County Pride. This year. It is June 15th, I believe it is a Thursday night, June 15th at 7 p.m. at Beacon Hill Fellowship. But they have a choir, and you're all invited to join in the choir. Our first rehearsal is this Saturday, May 27th at 6 p.m. at Beacon Hill Fellowship. All right, well, all of this and much more will be in our e-newsletter, which of course is emailed out to y'all on our website and posted on the bulletin board. And read it, says Dorothy. Boy, you'll be in trouble if you don't do what Dorothy says. Well, this month we center ourselves in creativity. So let us all get comfortable now. Take a few deep breaths. Close your eyes if you wish, and let us reflect together. Let us recall these words from John O'Donohue that I've been using for inspiration this month. The heart of human identity is the capacity and desire for birthing. To be is to become creative and bring forth the beautiful. Has a work of art ever helped you to shift your perspective? Artists begin their work with an idea, but often as they work, that idea changes and comes alive as something that changes even the artist's perspective. Creativity happens when we can change our perspective, get outside of the box of normativity and learn to see things differently. Look at our chalice table. This month, it has not been in its usual place, and it certainly doesn't look like its usual self. And I've certainly heard what some of you think about that, as I would expect. So those of you on my right here might feel like you are looking at the back of the table. But I invite you to think about that differently, and to wonder how that shift in perspective can invite you into creative thinking. Today, our chalice even looks a bit off kilter. If that bothers you, ask how and why, and where down the path of creativity that can lead you. All that being said, if you are not physically comfortable in your chair because of the angle in which things might be placed, feel free to go ahead and adjust the chair, or even switch your seat. You don't have to sit in the same chair each week. How much? It's my chair, she says. I know, we are creatures of comfort and habit, right? But how might changing that get you outside of the box? Today, as you engage yourself in this worship service, I ask you to adjust your perspective. How does seeing things differently open up new paths for the creating spirit of life? How does it bring forth the beautiful?
All Beings Are Blossoms by Reverend Carol Martignaco, written in April of this year for the Flower Communion 100th anniversary. Once upon a time, long, long ago, it so happened, we don't know why, but way back about 250 million years ago, in the middle of the Mesozoic era, Earth invented flowers. Suddenly, at least in terms of geologic time, after hundreds of millions of years, during the shift from the Carboniferous to Cretaceous mode, the ever-creative spirit of life that some call God, or that process theologian Henry Nelson Wyman calls the creative interchange, decided Earth needed redecorating, maybe bored with the Jurassic landscape. Earth's decision to blossom changed everything. Seeds had existed for some time, such as those in spores or pine cones, but they depended upon the wind or animals to transport and pollinate. Flowering was a plant's way of forming a fruit to protect the seeds, a more successful pollination and reproduction process. So it was that gradually the first angiosperms developed and prevailed, spreading across the face of the earth. Until about 125 million years ago, give or take a day or two, during the mid to upper Cretaceous period, fruit-bearing seeds began wildly diversifying, surpassing ferns, conifers, or evergreens as the dominant form of plant life, and it was beautiful. Evolution went right on, developing an equally diverse insect population to help pollinate the flowers, inventing insects that do much of the heavy work of pollination, and without them or the flowers, there'd be no food. Trust me, I know this. You probably know the quote by Emerson, "Earth laughs in flowers." Can't you just see it? Earth as a living organism suddenly bursting into laughter, surprised into joy by its invention of flowers, not knowing it would lead to the many varieties of flowers that we know today. Flowers, in the long and creative run of evolutionary time, gave rise to other forms of life, including mammals and eventually, most recently, humankind. Why do I tell this story? Flowers are not just ornamental, bringing us joy or comfort, decorating our lives, though for sheer beauty, they're beyond extravagant. We owe them our lives, for without them, so many other forms of life, including the human, would not exist. We're not only intimately related to them, we and our animal kin depend upon them for our very food. 85% of all the food we eat are pollinated by insects and make our food. Excuse me, I just lost my place. Okay. In this interconnected web of existence of which we are a part, flowers are our ancestors, and we hopefully bear a likeness to them. So may it be true, as the Japanese Zen master Roshi Soen Nagagawa wrote, that in a blossoming universe, all beings are flowers.
I've come to think of our UUCL community as always blossoming and ever evolving. We walk in here as human beings from many different life paths, looking for a place to connect with ourselves, with each other, and to whatever it is we hold as sacred and divine. If we stick around long enough, we find that this place, this experience changes us. Indeed, it is supposed to. Some of us come in here hoping for change, although it probably never goes the way we imagine it should, and others of us blossom unexpectedly, finding ourselves centered in values that call to us to share our golden ideas and to change the world. You might often hear me talk about the small groups that we have as a part of our programming here at UUCL. Small groups, sometimes called sharing circles or chalice circles, are designed for spiritual connection in an otherwise frantic world that keeps us disconnected. Small groups exist to support a journey of reconnection. This journey of reconnection is done by listening to life, listening to others, and listening to our deepest selves. When we do this, we discover how it is that our spirits blossom. We come to know what kind of unique flower we are and what it is we need to nourish ourselves. We can understand just how it is we contribute in our own special ways with our own sparkling ideas to this unique bouquet of humans collected here. So I asked the people participating in our small groups this year to please share with us today so that all of us here have a chance to listen and to be touched by the unique perspective of others. One of the tasks of listening to others is to hear how it touches our own hearts. Does someone else's sharing clarify something about our lives? How does a different perspective shift our own perspective? How can we hold up gratitude for the ways in which another's sharing has touched our lives? So I will begin this sharing with a poem from Nikki McCarty, who could not be with us today. However, when she is able to make small group, she often shares in the form of poetry, and it is quite beautiful. So I wanted to make sure that I had a chance to share it. She calls this Birds of Paradise. Morning sweeps in to entice the silent birds of paradise. The dew they gathered in the night ignites and shines in morning's light, reflecting rainbows on the ground to prepare the chorus sound. Some bow their heads with open wings, all rising from their roots to sing. And so they woke the garden with their colors loud and bright. The roses were composed and proper and polite. The honeysuckle whispered, and the clover swooned and sighed. Magnolias made a spectacle, and violets tried to hide. But the birds of paradise, the leaders of the choir, stepping first into the day with saffron plumage fire, rallying the beauty of every fragrant hue, and calling out to all the earth, to thine self be true. If not for words, I join along to their green and orange song. This foreign language, bright and free, evokes a tone of hope in me. Oh, to sing this color tune, radiant spring sound in bloom, pristine as fresh fallen snow with sunrise warmth and summer glow, vibrant, bold and brash, untamed, in morning's glory, unashamed. Oh, I just love her poetry. She's not here, but I'm just going to say thank you, Nikki. Thank you. So Petra is going to share something that she wrote in January when our theme was Finding Our Center.
I entitled it My Blessing. May I always know that I am enough. As I breathe into this knowing, may I spread the knowledge that this is true for all, to everyone I meet. May I remember always that my well-being must precede anything I do for others, no matter how good my intentions. Intentions are much like desires. May I recognize that my highest possible good may not accompany either. Life does not wait for decision-making. Choices are constant. There is no perfect choice, only the one I make next. May I trust that there is a part of me which serves only my highest good. May I quiet myself often in order to hear that small, powerful voice. And may I learn to say no.
Catherine Lepre was inspired by this month of creativity. That rhymes. Would you please come forward, Catherine, and share?
I would like to say a few words today about the language of flowers. As I only have about 2 or 2.5 minutes, I just want to say, like flowers, such as the ones that we have here, we are a community. We as a community are as diverse and uniquely beautiful We are a form of the creative energy of the universe. Flower ceremony is celebrated to honor and uphold community as one of UU's principles. Like the flowers, we grow when we are cared for and showered with love and affection from our littles to our, I said oldies, but let's just say elders. Because different flowers have different growing requirements. They are all as diverse in their wants and needs as humans are. The commonality between flowers and humans is that we both need care and attention to thrive and blossom. Our lives, while decidedly much longer than those of our flower friends, still need to find the right conditions in which to become the awesome individuals we are. Being with like-minded people, sharing a community with flower ceremonies, small groups, potlucks, game nights, etc., establishes a fertile environment for the growth of our humanity and the world. Here at UUC, we are blessed. Thank you. And oh, by the way, the language of flowers is love.
Okay. I'm going to share something from Glenda Littlehouse notebook. She'll be here probably after the service, so you can tell her how much you enjoyed it. She gave me a whole notebook to choose from, but I was especially inspired by something that she wrote during February, which the theme was love. She calls it Love Letter to a Stranger. In the early 70s, I moved with my husband and children to Merrimack, New Hampshire. We lived in a house on a dangerous curve. Within the first year, a car with a newly graduated teen lost control on that curve, hit a tree, and died. The first to arrive at the scene was a police officer who was the young man's brother. I was so saddened and moved by the whole situation that I wrote a letter to this boy's mom, expressing myself and sending her caring thoughts. I never heard back from her, but several years later, I met a woman I became friends with, and somehow we had a conversation about the whole incident. She, as it turned out, was good friends with the mom and told me how much that letter meant to her. Every time she had bad days, she'd take my letter out and reread it. For years she did that. I never met her, but I still think of her on occasion and send her prayers of continuing comfort and strength. You don't always get the opportunity to know the rest of the story, and I'm still grateful for that blessing. So, I want to say thank you to Glenda for inspiring that thought that sometimes one might have and going, oh, maybe I should reach out and say something, and then you think, oh, I don't want to bother the person or whatnot, but I think doing so obviously has more impact than not connecting. So, love plus connection equals transformation. So to follow that up, I have a funny story that I heard Ken Schmidt tell. He's going to tell it to you now. At dinner worship this month, I took from our small group packet some of the questions and presented them to the people at dinner worship. And one of the questions was, how did creativity get you in trouble when you were a child? Now we all know Ken. He's a gentle, wonderful, caring, giving soul. But he answered that question. So please come share your story with us, Ken.
Okay, I was 12 or 13 years old, and one of my two best friends, who was half Native American, we had tried picking wild strawberries, which are pretty small, and raspberries, and selling them door to door. And it takes a long time to pick a pint of strawberries or raspberries. So we decided to that we needed a more creative way to make money, some big money. So we decided we were going to trap animals, skin them, tan the hides, and sell the furs to Sears for making coats. That's how 12 or 13-year-olds think. So we built a box trap about maybe 1 foot by foot by about 2 feet long, with a door that slid vertical with a little pin that when the animal stepped on the treadle and the inside, the door would just slide shut. We caught some possums, skinned them. Because of his heritage, he knew how to tan the hides. So we skinned them and used, I don't remember what, we used the brain and some other organ or something and rubbed it in, and I can't remember how we did it. And then we took the final pelt and we hid it in a hollow tree. And we continued to trap animals. We decided, well, we're going to try for a raccoon. So we took our box trap down to a creek, because that's where they go. They wash their food before they eat, and put a can of tuna in there as bait. The next day we came back and we had caught a bobcat. And it was not a happy bobcat. So we got a long rope, tied it to the door, put it up over a tree, and went out as far as we could go, pulled the rope to open the door, and ran like crazy. Later on, we went back to retrieve the few pelts that we had to go take them to Sears. You know, we had envisioned initially our dugout canoe piled high with beaver pelts like we'd seen on TV. Well, we took our little hand, we went to get to the tree to get our stash of pelts, and bugs had gotten in them and eaten them.
Ah, the creativity of 12-year-old boys with skills. Woo! Thank you, Ken. Well, I'm so grateful for the small group participants that shared today, and of course there are many more of you in small group. I just thought that the sharing is so reflective of how we are all each unique individuals, and what we have, what we bring to the table. So I guess right now I would like for all of us to hold up gratitude for their sharing, and just think about the ways that their sharing connected you to maybe a memory or an important piece of wisdom waiting within, or just brought a smile to your face. So now I just ask that you simply say, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to begin our flower communion. However, first, I want to take a picture of the chalice table, because I'm sitting here looking at it and I'm thinking, oh, this is kind of cool. All of these ideas, all of these creative, spirits that have helped to make this happen, all of the flowers that you brought in, like, wow, it's beautiful, and it gives me hope of what we can do together in the world. So I see some of you took out your cameras to take a picture. I am also going to take my own. And I know we'll be sure to get it in the newsletter, right, Marsha? And I'm going to take a picture from the back too, because it's quite nice from back here as well. Different perspectives. And of course our flowers. So we will begin the flower communion. During our moment for all ages, I told you the story of how the flower communion came to be, that it was birthed in Czechoslovakia by Unitarian minister Norbert Čapek. He had an idea, inspired by all the beauty that existed around him. A ritual that has become near and dear to our Unitarian Universalist hearts was started 100 years ago. It honors the uniqueness of all of you and the creation of a beautiful bouquet that is made when we all come together. Sadly, at the end of World War II, it was revealed that Norbert Chapek had died in a Nazi concentration camp. You see, on the 28th of March, 1941, Chapek and his daughter Zora, who was only 29, were arrested by the Gestapo and taken to Pankrak prison. Zora was accused of listening to foreign broadcasts and distributing the content of some BBC transmissions. Chapek himself of listening to foreign broadcasts and of high treason. Several of his sermons were cited as evidence of the latter charge. The appeals court found Chapek innocent of the treason charge, recommending that, given his age, the year between his arrest and the appeals trial be counted toward his jail time. The Gestapo, ignoring the court's recommendation, nonetheless sent Chapek to Dachau and Zora to forced labor in Germany. Chapek's name appears among prisoners sent on an invalid transport on October 12, 1942 to Hartheim Castle near Linz, Austria, where he died of poison gas. So in honor of Norbert Chapek and his beautiful idea, we connect to the roots of our faith tradition today, remembering that our community includes the ideas and experiences of those who came long before us. And our community also includes Unitarian Universalists around the world who partake in this ritual. So when you entered the sanctuary, you were asked to put your flowers in the vase at the entrance. And after we consecrate the flowers, you will be asked to come forward and take a flower different than the one that you brought. And of course, if you didn't bring one, you still may come forward and take a flower, because there are plenty. By exchanging flowers, we show our willingness to walk together in love and beauty as we search for truth by offering our different perspectives, as we turn love into justice and liberation for all, and as we create a better way because of our differences. So whenever Dr. Chapek conducted his flower communion in Prague, he would say this proverb as he consecrated the flowers. And I'll ask you to stand in body or spirit as I read his words. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. So it is now time for us to share in the flower communion. As you approach the communion vase, do so reverently, with a sense of how important it is for each of us to address our world and one another with gentleness, empathy, and love. Select a flower different from the one you brought, and ask yourself, what different perspective does it bring to the table that you need to listen to? You may begin. Justin's. Yeah. Thank you. There are 3 hymns in our hymnal written by the Reverend Norbert Chapek. We sang one last week, Mother Spirit, Father Spirit. Today we're going to sing 2 more. Right now we're going to sing number 78, Color and Fragrance. And that's in the gray hymnal, number 78. But the flowers, the lyrics are also on the screen. Now, Dr. Chapek's Flower Communion Prayer, which I edited to be inclusive. In the name of Providence, which implants in the seed the future of the tree and in the hearts of all the longing for people living in human love. In the name of the Highest, in whom we move and who makes the mother, father, and all who parent, the siblings, friends, and neighbors what they are. In the name of sages and great religious leaders who sacrifice their lives to hasten the coming of peace and justice, let us renew our resolution, sincerely to be real siblings rooted in love, regardless of any kind of bar which estranges one from another. In this holy resolution, may we be strengthened, knowing that one Spirit, the Spirit of love, unites us, and may we endeavor for a more perfect and more joyful life. Amen. Amen. Judy, would you please read our chalice extinguishing words while Petra extinguishes the chalice?
Let us rise in body or spirit and sing together another.
We're here.
Oh, sorry.
You can still rise in body or spirit.
Sorry.
Whoops. We extinguish this chalice,
but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world.
And now let us sing.
Now let us rise in body or spirit and sing together another hymn written by Norbert Chapek during his time in the Dachau concentration camp. Hymn number 28, View the Starry Realm.
Norbert Chapek sacrificed his life in the name of love and unity. But let us honor this ancestor by manifesting in the world the meaning of his flower communion, that you are all loved, you are all worthy, and you are all a blessing. Thank you. Bless you.